A big hi to everyone out there who has joined us today. It's my absolute honor to be moderating this session. Before I introduce to you our very special guest speaker, let me touch briefly about this session. In few minutes from now, we will be hearing from our guest speaker his take on influence without authority. I repeat, influence without authority. Since we want all of you to make the most from this session, we encourage you to send any question that you may have during the session through a private chat to me. We'll take these questions at the end of the session. So on that note, let me introduce to you our speaker for today. He's a devoted Toastmaster for two decades now and has played a pivotal role in Toastmasters fraternity. He has sponsored over 12 Toastmasters Club in India. He has and continues to speak on using humor in public speaking at Toastmasters conventions across the globe, including India, UAE, USA, Singapore, Malaysia. He's an acclaimed public speaker, having spoken in 5 TEDx events in India and Dubai. Now, if you are already in awe with his Toastmasters accolades, just hold until you hear this. By profession, he is a civil engineer, but after 20 years of sales and marketing exposure, he moved into training. He was trained at the Harvard Law School on teaching negotiations in organizations. He's an accomplished corporate trainer, and his clientele includes big names like Citibank, Tata Steel, Samsung, and so on. He has also been a guest faculty at top management institutes of India, including IIM Ahmedabad and Bangalore. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's time now to put your hands together for the one and only Toastmaster Chendil Kumar, also popularly known as CK.
Thank you so much, Jyoti, for those warm words of introduction, which I so richly deserve, but I very rarely get. Honestly, my first public speaking coach had told me, whenever you get a highly flattering introduction, don't say, I don't deserve all these words. I asked him why. He said, the audience is soon going to find out anyway. I'm not sure what you're going to find out, but I'm extremely thrilled to be back at the gateway of Dubai Toastmasters. I consider this as a great way because my first meeting in Dubai Toastmasters was coincidentally anchored by Lieutenant Colonel Mohammad Murad with his flowing robes, and then I knew this was a club which had absolute class. Much later, the president of the club, VP Menon, organized a humor workshop in Dubai Toastmasters, which literally made me popular across the GCC countries. And so I'm so grateful that I'm coming back to Dubai Toastmasters. Now, before I switch on the PPT, you forget the topic. Just don't think of the topic. A quick question to you. What do you think is the chief factor that comes to your mind when you talk about influencing? Or what will you be influenced in life, either in the workplace or personally? You can just put it on the chat window or unmute and speak, whichever you think is convenient. And while you do that, I'll just get my PPT organized. What, in your opinion, is the most important factor for influencing someone? Since I won't be able to read that, Jyoti, can you please read the responses if you don't mind?
Sure, sir.
Yeah.
So we have responses which says honesty, empathy, trust and knowledge,
Okay.
your own credibility, authority,
Okay.
charisma.
Okay.
I would personally say benefits gained by them. Okay.
Benefits gained. What is in it for me? Great. Fair enough. Fair enough. Ironically, whenever this question has been posed, the first two words that come in the minds of people is, if I have authority, if I have expertise, it is very easy for me to influence people, ironically. And I'm sure you'll agree that these are some symbols of authority. A crown jewel, you may be a president, a CEO, a CXO, or holding a gavel. By the way, this has not been taken from a Toastmasters site, because the past international president is present here and he should not haul me over for copyright infringement. And the third picture that you see is brain power. So generally, people think, if I have authority or if I'm an expert in something, it is far, far easier to influence people. But let me tell you something. I was listening to DTM Royston Fernandez. I'm sure many of you must be knowing him. Several years ago, he was trying to improvise his speech for the International Speech Contest. And the previous year's world champion of public speaking, name is not important. He had emailed him because he was so encouraged by his speech and he was willing to help anyone. He sent a draft of his speech and said, I need your comments. Since there was no response for 3 weeks, he reminded him politely. It seems he sent back a message which was so nasty, so pungent. It was almost like you don't deserve to give the speech at all, made him feel very small, so unbecoming of a Toastmasters world champion. Please check with Royston Fernandez if you think I'm just faffing around. So the point is, you can have great authority. You may be a whiz kid. That doesn't necessarily mean you are a source of influence, because there is something more than that which we miss. In fact, some of you already mentioned that. And I'm not going to give you a laundry list of qualities. I'm just going to leave you with 3. And later, you will tell me whether you agree with this or not. And those 3 are empathy, one of you rightly mentioned, role modeling, and a sense of humor. There are many more. There are many more. But I've observed people across the continents in my interaction of 15 years with industry leaders. So I've come to the conclusion, the first quality is empathy. And what do you mean by empathy? Do you understand the pain point of your customer, your friend, your subordinate, or anyone? The accepting part, I'll come later. You don't have to accept everything that they say, but do you understand what they're going through? I think I should tell you with my own story. December 2018, I was the keynote speaker at the Rotary International District Conference in Bangalore in South India. I was checked into a boutique hotel, Goldfinch Hotel. My conference was at 9. At 8:30, I noticed that the button of my jacket was perilously hanging. I rushed down to the front office and the girl there got panicked and said, so what happened? I said, I have a meeting at 9 and look at the state of my jacket. She said, don't worry. And she called up housekeeping. Apparently, the housekeeping chap was not interested in coming down just to stitch a button. I panicked again. She said, don't worry. And she went herself, got the needle and the thread and started stitching the button. And I could hear her colleague, a male colleague, whisper, hey, why are you doing all this? This is not our job. And he was right. They were from the front office. They had no business to be doing all this. And you know what this girl did? She just looked up and said, sir has a meeting at 9. That's it. She handed over the jacket to me. I profusely thanked her and asked her name. And she said, Shraddha. For those of you who may not know the meaning, Shraddha means dedication. I instantly smiled and said, I'd like to congratulate your parents for naming you so appropriately, and rushed out. And guess what the topic of the conference was? Influence without authority. Do you think I had a better example to start my speech with? Definitely not. So I chucked my prepared text and I started with Shraddha's example. And let me tell you, throughout the conference, and this anecdote received the loudest applause. I had to rush to the airport because I was leaving for Bangalore and I forgot about this incident. Last year, for some other engagement, I again checked into the Goldfinch Hotel. Shraddha saw me, came rushing to me and said, "Oh, sir, I've been trying to reach you. After you mentioned my name, the next morning, at least 20 Rotarians came to me and congratulated me. Not only that, I was awarded the best employee of the month. Not only that, my family and I were sent on a 1 week all expenses paid vacation to a resort in Goa." I said, "Nothing surprising. I wish you even more glories." And I came out. But long after this incident, my dear friends, her words, "Sir has a meeting at 9, resonates in my ears. I think if each one of us can think of this, what exactly is the other person going through? As Toastmaster Club presidents, are we only running after DCP points? Or are we worried about the ordinary member whose concerns are not addressed because you have already become the president's distinguished district or the select distinguished district and you're just flaunting all your medals and everything? So that concern, that empathy to make a speaker better than what he or she was, that is what is going to make you something better. Forget all this. The very fact that you listen to a speaker with rapt attention gives you so much of confidence. So friends, empathy is nothing great. It has to come from within. So please practice that. I'll give you one more incident relating to the corona. Now you all know what kind of ravage that the corona or the COVID-19 has done. In the city of Mysore, a lady called Kamalama, whom you see on the top portion, a short, frail lady, she walked up to a camp organized by the Rotary Club once again, who were distributing free food packets because so many establishments had closed. And they were doing it for the past 10 days. She hesitatingly came to him, and the Rotarian thought she wanted a food packet, and he handed out a food packet. Immediately she said no, and she handed over a 500 rupee note or 25 dirhams to make it much more relatable to you. And this 25 dirhams was from her monthly pension of 30 dirhams, 600 rupees. She was a government pensioner. She handed this out and said, "I've been observing you people. You're doing a tremendous job. Here is a simple contribution. Please accept this." I mean, they were startled. The Rotarians were startled. She said no, but she pleaded and they accepted. The next day, once this news became public, Satish Acharya is a celebrated cartoonist in India. And I don't have to explain this cartoon. There were so many contributors for the COVID-19 relief activities, but all of them, Jack Dorsey, Bill Gates, Asim Premji, all of them are relegated. And a very shy Kamalama comes in the first place. This was a very touching moment. Did she have great authority? Was she in a position to give any power? Nothing. But look at her concern. She understood the pain points and she did what was possible. And I think that is very, very important. So the first and foremost, as one of you rightly put it, is even before you acquire an authority or become an expert, have that concern for others. You will automatically be a person of influence. And here is one example from Nepal. Our friend Joy Dutt spoke so well about the disaster. In the COVID-19 times, this board was put up. In case some of you are not able to read, I will put this, I'll read it out for you. Hi, if you're tourists stuck in Nepal, here you can find free lunch and dinner if you have no money at all. 100 rupees lunch and 100 rupees dinner if you have some money left. You can choose. Let's stay united and keep loving Nepal. Do you think he was the multimillionaire? Perhaps 5 to 6 chairs and a small restaurant. Look at his attitude. Look at his concern. He knew that with so many ATMs getting shut, tourists must have been in jeopardy. And look at his wonderful thought. Now, this is what I say. You don't have to be a master of authority or an expert or a whiz kid to be empathetic. The next, I want you to read this and imbibe the meaning of this remarkable sentence. Don't worry that your children are not listening to you. Worry instead, they are always watching you. You can give n number of instructions. I can tell my son not to lie. I can tell him 100 times that you must always speak the truth. But let's say once the phone rings and I tell him, if it's for me, tell him I'm not at home, that entire edifice gets demolished. You need to walk the talk, because they always imitate what we do and not necessarily what we instruct. Just yesterday, we completed a meeting of Smedley Speakers Society, my home club in Bangalore. We had 2 project speeches. One was by Francis Gama, a past president and one of the founding members, and other was a member named Praveen. Both of them were very good. And in fact, Francis' speech was a notch higher because he appealed to the head, he appealed to the heart, a very heartwarming speech. In fact, we were also mesmerized by this. But when the timer's report came, she read out that Francis took 7 minutes, 37 seconds. Now, she looked at the general evaluator because she too was mesmerized by his speech, and he was a very senior member. And the GE also said, and it was his birthday yesterday. So he said, let's give a gift to the birthday boy. He also should be considered for the awards. Now, when the president announced the awards, he said there's a tie for the best speaker award. Both Praveen and Francis have got it. Immediately, Francis raised a point of order and said, sorry, the fact that I've exceeded the time limit, I don't deserve to be in this race. So please strike my name out and please award Praveen. And for the new members, they were gaping in disbelief and said, wow, this is something that I will follow. Please tell me, even if you give hundreds of, words, I don't think they would have been impressed by the single act that Francis did. I'm sure you will find so many role models in your own clubs who walk the talk and not simply preach. Why is there so much of disillusionment with leaders? Especially Dubai being a very senior Toastmasters club. If you're going to be judging at the district events, are you working on your conscience, or are you partial to the to whom you are familiar with? That will clearly determine that you don't walk the talk. So I think, and McKinsey Consultants, a world-renowned consultancy, recently conducted a survey among tens and thousands of professionals across industries. And the question that they asked was, what will make you change your mindset and behavior? Here is the answer that they gave. I'll give you 5 seconds for you to read what is put up, so that I will change my mindset and behavior if, there are 4 factors. For want of time, I'll quickly read only the summary. I understand what is being asked of me, which means your communication has to be clear. Reinforcing with formal mechanisms, which means the systems that you have, like what Colonel Murad did today, the fact that you have been disqualified, he simply said there's just one person. And he's also not eligible for voting. But interestingly, out of all this, 68% of the respondents said role modeling is the number one factor that they would ascribe for to get influenced. Number one factor, role modeling. So are you setting a good example? Otherwise, nobody is going to believe you in spite of all your achievements and all the fancy talk that you give. Finally, I come to a favorite subject of mine. And although there are, like I said, there are many other factors for influence, a person without a sense of humor is like a wagon without springs, which means you get jolted by every small pebble. And people who are humorous immediately are endearing, and they have the capacity to build large relationships. Just take a small look at this picture. Suppose I'm conducting a session on communication is not easy. You know the meaning, right? I don't think, if I have to explain this, then it doesn't become a joke. The traffic policeman's perspective and the lady's perspective. It instantly gives at least a smile, and then the concept, communication is not easy, becomes clear for the audience. And in the process, the message becomes much more clear. And this is something that I received today on Facebook. Webinar on how to avoid frauds is cancelled. Registration fee is non-refundable. I instantly chuckled at this because this is a classic example of a demo of how to cheat people. Yes, how can I talk about humor if I don't talk about Lucky Sablani, a distinguished member of Dubai Toastmasters? In fact, while I was living in Dubai, we formed the Mutual Admiration Society. I used to sit in his sessions. He used to likewise sit in my sessions. We used to exchange a lot of notes. And I simply can't forget the day when I was sitting in the front row, and I almost fell off the chair when Lucky started off his speech by saying, to overcome nervousness, my mentor used to tell me to imagine that the audience sitting in front are a bunch of idiots. But I was so nervous that I went and told this to the audience. I tell you, it was classic. It was classic. And Lucky comes up with so many brilliant snippets. And I'm sure it is a great loss, not just for the Toastmasters community, but for his friends in general. And why am I calling him an influencer? He used to be, I don't think he had any great title in the district, but he used to be welcomed in most of the conferences or many clubs just because of his ability to spring humor. And in my brief association with the UAE, I can think of people like VP Menon, who's institutionalized humor. I don't think he's also served as the district director, but he's a very, very popular catch for any club which wants to have a meaningful session on humor. You have KL Nagarajan of Sharjah. Guna, I think he was in Dubai for a long time. Now, please forgive me, I'm just telling names whom I remember. There must be many more people. And how can I forget the bubbly, effervescent couple of Nimi and Shibu? Both of them create such healthy vibes when they go to any place simply because of their ability to use humor. Now, I was a member of the Friends of Yoga Toastmasters Club in Dubai, and we were told that the area governor was paying an official visit. So we were all expected to be prim and proper, no funny, no pranks, no funny business, because the area governor is going to send a report to the district, so we better be serious. So we were all worried, and in walks Nimi Shibu with a gigantic size and with a straight face. So we thought she must be a strict matron, headmistress kind of Toastmaster, and we just kept quiet. And she came and started off by saying, "Hi guys, my name is Nimi Shibu." And I told you she was quite tall and stout. All along, I've been known by my circumference, but this is the first time somebody is addressing me by my area. Your area governor, Nimi Shibu. I tell you, she literally broke the ice. And then we came to know she's not such a tough cookie that we thought her to be. She's such an endearing, laughing person. And if you look at any conference or any event, during the break, there is always a massive crowd with her just to exchange pleasantries. And this is one lady, I can say, she literally throws her weight and influences people. Some lovely people in Dubai, just think for yourself. There must be so many people who may not have a great title, but they attract you, they make your life much better because of the humor that they have. So, in conclusion, remember, empathize, strive to be a role model. All this big talk will not work if you don't walk the talk, and build rapport with humor. One of the easiest ways to build influence is to have a sense of humor, which is not, pointing fingers at others, but a healthy sense of humor, which makes people want to talk to you. I think that is very, very important. So, thank you so much. You stayed this long. I must appreciate this. And if you have anything, any questions, I'll be happy to answer, and then we can call it a day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yes.
Surprisingly, we haven't received any question on the chat. You were so crystal clear. But I would definitely open the floor to everyone. If you have any questions, please make full use of this opportunity. I open the floor to everyone and encourage you all to ask questions.
Sure.
Just unmute yourself and go ahead and ask a question that you have for sir. It may not be related to this particular topic, maybe. I mean, anything related to humor, because we all know that he is a very popular humorist. So anything related to humor or anything related to your work life, if you feel, with regards to influence.
Yeah, anything.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
So if you're trying to improve on your sense of humor, which I'm trying to do, but I have issues with sort of working on delivery and actually writing out jokes. What would you suggest would be a good way of working on it?
I think a simple answer would be to find the right mentor and keep practicing. There's no better cure. It's a trial and error method, and Dubai offers so many clubs. I know there are some of my friends like Karthikeyan, who's a member of 4 or 5 clubs. And any club I drop into, he's inevitably there. So get that practice and get a proper feedback, and that's the only way to improve upon. You may fail 4 times, 5 times, but the 6th time you have at least 30% of your audience rollicking or even smiling. You can say that is your eureka moment, and then start building up. You don't get instant fame, definitely. That's been my experience.
Yes, Mohammed Rafi, please go ahead.
Good evening, Chendil sir. It's a pleasure to hear you. Yeah, I don't have a question rather. I'm just remembering a small anecdote after hearing Shraddha's incident.
Yes.
It was in Bangalore. I just came out of a mosque, and I saw a beggar sitting there. And I just gave her some money. And she got up from there. She took the money. She went next to another lady. And gave that money to her. And she said, she is more poorer than me. This is what I could see from her fragile body.
Wow, wow.
This really made me to think what we are today and how far we have to go.
Exactly, exactly. I think it all is in the attitude and not the kind of wealth or treasures that you build. Do you have the right kind of mental attitude? Yes, excellent.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please. Bosco, yeah.
Yes. For a humorous speaker, laughs are very important. So when you're doing it in front of people live, it is very easy to, get the laughs, and that helps you. It sets your mood also, and your speech also get better and better. But now in virtual meetings, since everyone they mute themselves, and when we are delivering something and there are no laughs, that spoils the energy. So can you give us some ways how to overcome that?
No, you raised a very valid point, Bosco, because especially for people like us who got used to the interactive audience, seeing the laughter, and that's what creates the tonic for us. Virtual meetings, I found it very difficult when I started these webinars, but I can give you one useful tip. Start visualizing as if you delivered the punchline right, and 60% of the audience is actually enjoying your laughter. Now, if you saw today, I had the PPT on. I normally do not use a PPT, especially for humor, because I feel that it should be more interactive. But in this medium, virtual medium, it is better that we feed them with something to look at. So the only thing I will say is visualize that your favorite people are sitting in the audience and they are plumping for you. And the more and more you start believing in that, you will start delivering your lines with conviction. Not easy, Bosco, not at all easy. You need to take some time, but the visualization has helped me much to overcome these barriers. Yes.
So we have a funny question from the chat.
Yeah.
How to influence this Toastmaster's wife when he's late from work?
Okay. Now, if I knew the trick of how to influence your spouse, I will not be talking to Toastmasters. I'll be giving tough competition to Tony Robbins, because this is a universal problem. Sorry, this question is out of syllabus. No, it's not easy. Everybody goes through this, and each one has a different way of tackling their spouses. So the one thing that I picked up, which is an age-old joke, is my wife and I have never fought in our 25 years of wedded life. She goes her way and I go her way. You must have heard it an umpteen number of times, but this always helps.
Is it time for a question?
Yeah, one more, I think. I don't know. The timer is already put red, but let's quickly.
It's okay. Yeah. Let's just take this one more question.
Thank you.
So to challenge myself, what I've done is wonderful presentation, by the way, CK. I just love the keynote. It was really truly inspiring the way that you shared, and like you said, I was chuckling over here throughout the whole session. So thank you so much for that.
You're a popular guy yourself, man. You organize such a lot of walk-through, sit-through and all that. Yeah, nice to see you. Great, tell me.
Nice to see you. Thank you. So to challenge myself, the thing is, when I'm in a conversation, I can be humorous. When I am chatting with people, I can be humorous. But standing on stage, delivering a prepared speech, I always find it very, very challenging. And to challenge myself, I have actually taken the engaging humor path right now in Toastmasters.
Great.
What would you recommend would be because what I've identified recently is, in a conversation, I'm able to create humor because the context is already set. In a speech, you will have to create the context, set the context, and then deliver the punchline.
Yes.
So what would you suggest as how to get into this journey of engaging humor, and how to make the most of this path from your perspective?
Right. As you rightly said, first thing is you've taken the first right step, engaging humor, because that itself gives you a lot of guidelines on how to engage. And if you've noticed one thing, engaging humor does not necessarily mean that you have to keep the audience laughing gag after gag after gag. This is not stand-up. You have to make a point and come out with something to make them smile so that they start thinking, right? So best, once again, the same advice is go to multiple clubs, keep practicing those speeches. Initially, it may take some time. But one thing I've learned is when you write a script, please don't memorize words. The moment you get stuck on stage, you will go blank. Just memorize ideas. I just have 3 ideas and I'll say whatever is the connecting sentence. And then you will slowly become natural. Have a faithful group of people with you who will give you constructive criticism or constructive feedback. And that's the only way to improve. What went well? Where did you think the joke failed? And where did you think the joke was lukewarm? So keep on doing this. And this is where I think we miss this stage presence, right? There we get instant gratification. So, but not an issue. Keep reworking, working, and see how the audience responds. That's the only way, Samir. I don't think
mentors have left me actually because I don't write my speeches.
Okay, okay.
They're not able to mentor me because I don't write them. I just go and deliver it over there. I just, like you said, I have ideas. But the thing is, again, to come up with, all right, I'll take your advice and work on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Samir. Nice.
So we have one last question from the chat. Can we take it? Take it,
Yeah,
timer?
Yeah,
okay. So she's a dear friend. She asks what to do when one goes blank in between a speech, or nothing. They feel that they're just out of words in any situation. How can they overcome that situation?
This is something that every speaker attempting, not necessarily humorous, everybody goes through this. Even a simple icebreaker, because of the audience, you start focusing and then you get nervous. Let me tell you one thing. The reason why we go blank is we enter the stage thinking that the audience is focusing on you and they are dissecting every move of yours. But do you know the truth? The audience is wondering what will they do when they come on stage. They're not worried about you. So shift the focus. Shift the focus and say, I'm here to give a 5 to 7 minute speech. I'm going to enjoy myself. And then, there are these standard exercises like taking deep breath, drinking lots of water and all that. And once again, when you go through that, it will become much easier for you when the focus is not on the audience. But once again, very easy for me to say, take some small steps, find out how it works, try it in your club, then go to a larger gathering. And that's the only way I think this can happen.
Wow, what a lovely advice, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I think, sir, on behalf of all of us present here, I would really like to thank you from the bottom of my heart for for this wonderful session. It was to the point, at the same time very meaningful, and the key takeaway for me was to influence by empathy, because that's something which I can relate to the most. So thank you once again, sir. It was an absolute honor to have you. Thank you.
Jyoti, you better stop and don't say anything more. I thought Rashmi had a very smiling countenance. She started giving tough looks now, and she's promised me that she'll unmute me and remove my video. So thank you so much, Jyoti. Thank you everyone for making this such a wonderful occasion. Right. Thank you.